went to go see Batman with the Batman, and I loved it, and I thought it was great, and Zoe was great, and Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, everyone did wonderful.
It was fantastic. I left, and my buddy goes, Colin Farrell was great. And I go, yeah. Huh? Like, Colin Farrell was not in this movie at all. And
buried.
Dude, you crushed me. You got me, buddy.
So there is a show that surprised me so much in 2024. Had me like in a chokehold, right? Where I just had to make a video on it. I know there's so many videos on The Penguin, okay, if you couldn't tell by the title. I still wanted to talk about it because it was just so good. It was like the best show of 2024. Most people agree with this. It was watched by millions of people. I kept up on it every single week. I was so excited for the new episode. I was upset there was only 8 episodes. I am extremely new to this whole Marvel and DC universe. The Penguin is under DC, so like Batman and all that. I had never watched any Batman stuff before, and I finally watched the ones with Christian Bale, loved them, and then I watched the one with Robert Pattinson. I ended up diving into that after I watched The Penguin because I love The Penguin so much, and I was so surprised with it that I just had to see what else was over there. And of course, this might anger some DC and Marvel people that put me into the Marvel category. I have been watching a lot of Marvel, so that's kind of really not my element. My element is more mafia, but so many people were comparing this show to The Sopranos. And as you all know, per my last video, Sopranos is my favorite show of all time. It changed me as a person. It just affected me so deeply that when people were comparing it to The Sopranos, I was like, okay, this might be something to check out. I'm reading a review that somebody wrote. I was like, I want to find one that has everything in it. Kind of explains the show's plot and I relate to. I also want to throw in the stuff that I thought was just so good. The Penguin is a series that I did not initially pay much attention to, despite my mammoth Batman fandom. I felt that The Batman was an okay movie and Robert Pattinson did a good job as Bruce Wayne, who listened to The Cure growing up. I personally enjoyed the Christian Bale movies more than the Robert Pattinson. Was the vibe of the Robert Pattinson Penguin-esque? Yes. It's darker. I felt Christian was a better Batman. Not that I didn't like Robert Pattinson's version. It was just different. We have Oswald Cobb, Penguin, played by Colin Farrell, amazing. He is in that movie, and the Penguin picks up from where that movie left off. The Robert Pattinson, it was like an okay script for me. The vibe was there. I just felt like Christian's version was so great. Still, I felt the Penguin was an odd choice to make the star of his own series. This was something that people were saying they didn't understand, how DC was going to make a whole series revolved around Oswald Cobb. It's a side character, somebody that just had like a subplot, wasn't a main character, you know? People were kind of just like, I don't know if this is gonna work. Is there enough there? Previous Batman series without Batman, like Pennyworth and Gotham, suffered for the absence of Caped Crusader. There is also the fact that this is a review from Grimmark magazine, so the question is whether or not the subject is Grimmark. After all, it is a comic book from a known family and the property. Batman is things, but one of them is a hero in a Grimmark. So it's weird that the Penguin is probably the best Batman property since the animated series, if not ever. That is such a big statement. No, seriously, this show is fantastic from beginning to end. Colin Farrell puts on a ludicrous amount of costuming and fake Italian accent, yet somehow delivers one of the best performances I can remember. Co-stars Kristen Milioti and Renzi Felice also turn in amazing performances. Indeed, the Penguin's many talented actors. Mark Strong is probably the only weak performance, and even he does a serviceable job as Carmine Falcone. The Penguin's premise is that Oswald Cobb, Oz, is a mid-level Italian mobster in this universe as opposed to being the criminal mastermind he usually is. He's a working-class crook this time around instead of a fallen billionaire's heir, and even envisions himself as a man of the people. It's a change from the comic books, but the Penguin has multiple origins, so it's not as big as a change as one might think. Besides the fact that the Penguin is centrally tied to ideas about wealth and class, and America comes through as well in these 8 episodes. The short version of what happens is that Oz lets his temper get the better of him during a discussion about who is going to inherit the late Carmine Falcone's throne. This one impulsive action sets off a domino effect of events where Oz is constantly forced to scheme as well as plot to dig himself out of the hole that he's dug for himself. This includes recruiting a disabled young man to be his #1 henchman, and dealing with the return of Carmine Falcone's daughter, Sophia, who who has spent the past 10 years in Arkham Asylum. For the most part, The Penguin benefits from the fact that it could be any other mob movie rather than a superhero movie. The show never acts ashamed as its superhero roots, though, and gradually the story ramps up until it starts becoming more obviously something taking place in Gotham City. Certainly, it's not that much different from the Gotham of the Batman 2022. What did I say? To the movie, while Batman's lack of presence throughout the show is a bit disappointing, I felt the show more than made up for it with the final shot of the show. No, I won't spoil it, but it recontextualized a lot of the show's place in larger iteration of the franchise here. Last shot of Penguin is the Batlight with Batman up there in the sky. I wasn't mad about that. It was okay because they gave you a little something, right? And they gave you that to be able to give you more episodes in a season 2 if they choose to do that. Part of what makes this show's grim dark is the fact that Oswald sells his idea of being a mobster of the people extremely well. Someone who was respected by the community and a friend despite the fact that he wants to flood the streets with narcotics. Except the show never forgets that this is Oswald's opinion of himself, and we get numerous reminders that he is ultimately an utterly ruthless gangster, some of which are really shocking right up to the end. In all these interviews that Colin did, he was like, nobody's gonna like this guy. Like, if you think you like this guy, you're wrong. And we were all like, Colin, we actually know the show better than you, okay? People were like, no, this is like a Tony Soprano vibe. Like, he's an anti-hero, he's a protagonist, but he's the main character, and like, we're still rooting for him, right? I kind of understood his pain throughout the series. It's the actions he takes towards the end where you are reminded, like, this guy's a villain. But they do such a good job of being like, but this is the reason, right? Oh, this is okay because this happened. And then you really see him at the end and it's like, whoa. You basically get slapped in the face, like, this guy is the villain. Sophia Falcone is almost the co-protagonist of this film as we follow her own journey from victim to villain and discover the numerous twists as well as turns regarding her past. Kristen Milioti is someone who manages to keep you guessing as to who her true alliance is with, even when we discover how heinously wrong she was by her father as well as mobster family. Sophia also has a fabulous wardrobe throughout the show, and the costume designers deserve kudos. I am obsessed with Sophia Falcone. Okay, like, I don't think you guys get it. She made that show. She was just a boss, man. To see her in that role. Felice Vick is also a character that I think a lot of us can relate to, particularly in our teenage years. Someone who knows better than to be involved in organized crime, but is swept up in the excitement as well as lifestyle as Oswald Cobb. The Penguin has some serious issues as they'll come out, but he also has friends with a prostitution ring madam as well as the owner of a wealthy nightclub. At 18, I would have been easily swept away as well. In conclusion, The Penguin is just a damn good show and everyone should check it out. You should definitely watch Batman 2022 before you watch it. Well, guess what? We didn't do that. While you can follow events pretty well without it, it ties together in several surprising ways. Episode 4 was major. I've never had to like sit in silence after watching something and like stare at a wall for like 30 minutes to an hour to like really figure out what I just watched. The plot of the show is that Oz and Sophia are fighting for control of Gotham. Sophia is the daughter of Carmine Falcone, who is a mobster. She finds her mother deceased in their room, hanging. She figures out that her father was the one to do this to her mother. Her father figured out that she was figuring it out and sent her to Arkham, which is like this asylum that everybody knows about if you know DC, right? Where Harley Quinn was sent. It's the worst place you could ever go. And the father throws her in there because he realizes if he doesn't put her away and pass her off as psychotic and crazy and doesn't know what she's talking about, she's gonna rat him out for unaliving the mother. So they make up this story. They call her the Hangman. And the first 3 episodes you think, oh yeah, she is the Hangman. Right? They say she killed all these women at this like club. It was the father. Father did all this. He convinced everybody that she was crazy and got her sent to Arkham for like 10 years, right? She gets out and everybody in the family thinks she's psychotic still, right? They try to send her off to Europe. She's like, I'm not going to Europe, right? But I'll never forget that scene when she first walks into frame in the first episode. I mean, first see Sophia. She's like, I really wanted to work with a movement coach because Sophia walks a certain way and I wanted it to be like she's always nervous walking into a space because she doesn't know who's there, how she has to act, just moving a certain way in a scene. And that came across so strongly. And I remember being like, oh, who is this, right? We knew this was advertised that Sophia was in the show, but we did not know the extent. We didn't know how she like fit in, knew she was the daughter, but like we didn't think she was going to play a major part in this show. We also have Vic. He's a guy that Oz recruits basically in the middle of a criminal act. He decides to spare him, and it's that very Tony Soprano and Christopher relationship. Brings him in as a stutter. He teaches him how to work with it. He teaches them how to do what he does. Towards the end, he kind of reveals too much about his life, too much about his relationship with his mother. Oz realizes this is a loose end. He knows my secrets. He knows my real intentions. He knows how I feel about my mother. He's seen me break down and cry because of my mother. These are things that Oz cannot deal with. He needs this loose end taken care of. I think that was the most brutal scene of the show, besides episode 4. He unalives Vic in a very up close and personal way. That was difficult, and like I felt it that was gonna be what happened because Colin was there. He like, you're not gonna like this guy. You see that towards the end, and then of course there's that whole relationship with his mother, which is very Livia Soprano, Tony Soprano's mother. The only person that he cares about is his mother. He wants to impress her. He wants to run the city. He wants to make money because of his mother. See that very dark and twisted relationship. We find out that he unalives his brothers, and we find out no, she knew about it the whole time, never confronted him on it. She's really forced behind his madness, you know. She's basically telling him what he has to do. Her health is declining, and she tells him, you need to end my life if it gets to a point where like I'm a vegetable. I don't want to be a vegetable. I don't want to be in a hospital bed. I don't want to be able to not speak, you know, or eat or talk, whatever it is, right? He promises her, oh yeah, mom, I'll do it, right? He's doing all this so that he can get his mom a penthouse, right? A view over the city. She becomes a vegetable. He finally gets her the penthouse view. She's in the hospital bed and she can't speak. She's crying. And you go, oh, this guy is the worst of the worst because he wanted to punish his mother for the stuff she said and did to him when she found out what he did to his brothers. It's just like the worst thing that he could have done. There's this really icky scene at the end where basically he dresses up his mistress as his mother and they're dancing. And there's a parallel to a scene where he's dancing with his real mother. He has his real mother as a vegetable, gives her the dream, but the punishment is you're a vegetable as you have it. And that's the worst ever. He wants to feel like he won. But he still gets his mother to tell him how great he is. And this woman dressed up as his mother, it was just so, oh my god, like you really went there. Episode 4, man, I went, oh, this show is really something special. I've never seen anything like this. There was definitely some Soprano-esque themes, but this was its own thing. You see Sophia, backstory of her going to Arkham, and you see them doing all the tests on her, and it's brutal. The psychological distress. He unalives everybody in the house wearing this iconic yellow dress that has become synonymous with the character. People were dressing up as her for Halloween. She wears a gas mask. She unalives everybody in the house with carbon dioxide. She saves the child. On a dinner the night before, oh, you all think I'm crazy. None of you vouched for me. You all are fake. You all betrayed me. You let me rot in there for 10 years. Like this whole scene, yellow dress and the gas mask and the music that was playing, it was all so calculated on what writers were trying to do. And like I saw that. What I really liked is they showed at the end of every episode behind the scenes. Very, very informative because this is a show that is extremely deep. This whole plot line with Sal, his wife, another, you know, crime guy that was in prison, Oz was trying to do business with. Brutal scene where he unalives like the son and the mother, and he watches, and that's where you realize what's happening here, right? You realize what kind of guy this is. Before that, you're kind of in denial. Sophia, you constantly see her get more psychotic, and Oz gets more ruthless. I know it's leading to like a big explosion at the end. Sophia and the doctor, and you're like, these two are like in a very odd relationship. A lot of people think that he's the Scarecrow. The character Cillian Murphy plays in Batman Begins, Oz, doesn't unalive Sophia. Instead, he turns her into the authorities again. She gets thrown back in Arkham. And of course, that whole iconic scene where Sophia burns down the house. You never know what's gonna happen next. You can't guess anything. Every single plot line that you think, oh, it's going this way. No, it's not. It's going this way. And that's how you have a good show. One of the later episodes, they all meet up and like Oz's mother, you find out that she knows about the kids. Sophia's controlling interrogation, kidnapping. She has both of them tied to chairs and she's like losing her mind. You're like this, right? Joe Rogan at UFC, like. We find out at the end, Sophia is Catwoman's sister. She writes her a letter in Arkham. Now we have that connection and your brain just like explodes, right? Oz used to be Sophia's driver, knew Sophia wasn't crazy and that they set her up. And he never helps her out. So that's where it starts. When she gets out, now they're in a fight. That is my overview of The Penguin. Let me know if you relate to this in the comments, if you watched it, what your favorite character is, what your favorite episode is. Highly, highly, highly recommend. If you have any shows in particular that you want to see, any topic, let me know in the comments. Please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you never miss when I post a new video. Like the video. You can follow me on TikTok, Liv M's Vlogs. And also follow me on Instagram, Liv Marie with 6 E's. And if you want the audio version, then check that out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts under Liv Combos. I love you guys so much. Thanks for being here. Go watch The Penguin if you haven't seen it. And if you've seen it, go watch it again and again. Bye.